Hey guys, it's Emmy, and this is Emmy After Dark. We're getting started a little bit earlier today, just for the East Coasters. I know that some of you guys are coming in from the Tilted Lawyer, which I really do appreciate. And we have Gauth here.
Hey, sorry, I just had to finish my mouthful of popcorn.
We got our
Yes, I went
popcorn
and bought more
ready.
popcorn.
So tonight we're going to be talking about cryptids, and I will be attempting to shock Gauth. I think you'll be happy about this one. So, yeah. Did you want to start with some of your stories
Yeah,
first?
certainly we can start with the Australian side of cryptids as per me being Australian. Um, yeah, so as with some of them are mythological, some are have now been considered real. So there's that very interesting thing. I'll have to see if I can bring the page up. Hold on. My favorite one of all time. I'll bring the I did post the link in, is the Blue Mountains Panther. The Blue Mountains is actually a very picturesque area of New South Wales. I have been there many a time. Um, the only thing I don't like dealing with is the stairs to go visit the Three Sisters, which is they're basically huge chunks of the mountain that have been cut off. Like there's three individuals. As I said, very picturesque, very beautiful. Now, the Blue Mountains Panther is, of course, technically the only exotic large cryptid cat. This story has been going around since probably well before I was a kid. I remember my grandmother telling me stories. Now, uh, it has been around. The story has been around for over a century. It is described usually as being, a big black panther-sized cat. If I remember correctly, there is some footage out there, but it's, as with all cryptids, it's filmed on a potato. Um, so with the proof of it, it's mainly limited to eyewitness encounters and combined with circumstantial evidence such as large feline-type scratches found on high on the trees and the carcass of sheep and cattle supposedly killed by the creature. In the latter case, the remains have allegedly been found high in the fork of trees, well above the levels of floodwaters or in areas not affected by flooding at all, suggesting they were dragged there by a large and powerful predator. While no conclusive evidence of the panther has yet been found, a 2004 report by the New South Wales Department of Agriculture investigator Bill Atkinson, the department's rural New South Wales-based agricultural protection officer, concluded nothing found in this review conclusively proves the presence of free-range exotic large cats in New South Wales. But this cannot be discounted as it seems more likely than not to be than on available evidence. In recent reports of the Blue Mountain panthers have become increasingly frequent, particularly in the towns of Lithgow and Grossvale. Lithgow is also a very beautiful town. Been there a few times because it's my grandmother's hometown where she grew up. On several occasions, witnesses have been reported being confronted by large, dark-coloured feline creatures that are described as much larger than any known feral cat. On one occasion in Kenthurst, New South Wales, a young boy was badly scratched by a large cat outside his home. Researchers Mike Williams and Ruby Lang and witnesses Chris Coffey, Ken Pullen and Karen Dolan have helped maintain a database of sightings across the Greater Blue Mountains and Sydney Basin region. The database has been used extensively by the state government to investigate the phenomena and has been utilised by the media. It is speculated that the creature, or more probably creatures, if it exists, may be the offspring of animals that escaped from the wilderness excuse me, from traveling circuses in the late 19th and 20th century. There goes my explanation for why they think they're around. Another suggestion is that because the creatures have been reported largely in old gold mining regions, its ancestors may have been North American wildcats imported from the United States by American miners during the gold rush of 1850s and later released. In Gippsland area of southeast Victoria, World War II airmen reportedly released several cougars they had brought to Australia as mascots, which may account for some sightings.
Mm.
But that's still a pretty big distance to cover from Gippsland to the Blue Mountain regions. But considering some animals travel halfway across the world, then yeah. Um, Yet another alternative theory concerning the cat's origins relates to the now closed African Lion Safari Park, which is located at Warragamba. Hmm, I don't remember. I'll have to look into that because Warragamba is actually really nice. It's got like a big dam thing that you go that has like big area for barbecues and stuff. It's a nice area to go down there and like on weekends and stuff like that. Um, but I've never heard of there being a safari park being there. Weird. Um, Sightings of the panther have been reported in this area, leading to conclude that the big cat or big cats may have escaped from the park before it was closed down or during the removal of the animals. However, it has been confirmed that one sighting was actually a rescued cat named Toby. As well as this, there was a tragic event in which hunters somehow mistook a large house cat for a panther, and so lured the cat into a park before they shot it. There is
Oh,
also the possibility of some photographic evidence and/or footage that could be of normal house cats out for a walk, which is what I explained about being filmed on potatoes. Um,
yeah, but
if I
how
remember,
big is the cat? Like, how big do your house cats get?
um, the normal the normal house cats are normal size. The feral cats that are interbreeding with each other are getting bigger. Um, as to whether they're not the cougar size, I don't know because that is one thing I've never actually seen in real life, like a cougar and all that. So
Mm,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah, but it really wouldn't surprise me with the Blue Mountains actually hosting that area because it's one of the areas that's still extremely untouched by human habitation. We
Uh,
only live on the outskirts of it. Yeah, if you look at photos of if you bring up the photos of the Three Sisters and that area where you're looking out over the escarpment and all that, yeah, any and all type of creatures could live down there, and you wouldn't know. It is, yeah.
interesting. Maybe it's they did release like a house cat and it just got bigger over the years and it just thrived because it didn't, have any human, interaction.
Hmm. Yeah, well, as I said, when I grew up, the story was always the traveling circuses. They got rid of their animals because they'd been told they had to get rid of them because of a new law or something that had come in, and that's why they released them all, or it was a crash circus truck that
Mm,
they had escaped from. That's the story that we always believed growing up. So
that makes more sense.
yeah, and I'm pretty sure there are recorded cases of that happening throughout history in other parts of the world too, where uh, I think on the moors in England, some of their big cats have reported to have had the same sort of fates. Either been released or because of accidents they've gotten out that way, and that's how they've managed to survive on the moors.
Mm,
Okay, so I'm not going to touch on the platypus because yes, that apparently was a form of cryptid, but it has been now proven to be real, obviously. Same with the thylacine, although that has now entered into cryptid status with sightings still in Tasmania, and I think in Papua New Guinea they believe there are remnant populations still. Um, so those couple in particular, I'm not going to touch just because they're worthy of stories of their own. Now, as for other ones, I could go into, like, for example, the drop bear, which is usually what my avatar is, but I've changed it over to a whole heap of different ones for you guys to have a look at if you can enlarge my avatar.
Yeah.
But um, let's go into a story that should be related to the Black Panther. We'll go into the Gippsland Phantom Cat. Um, I will that link that I dropped into the chat. If you go into that, there is actually a photo of the cats. Yeah. So the Gippsland Phantom Cat is a feline cryptid in the Gippsland region of southeastern Victoria, Australia. Although feral cats are present throughout Australia, there is yet to be any definitive proof that big cats exist in Australia, despite hundreds of reportings of sightings. It's the same with the dogs too that are interbreeding with dingoes and other things. Um, because I think if I remember correctly, in the states they've got coyotes and wolves are now interbreeding, and there's even a tribe version of that where it's coyotes, wolves, and dogs that are breeding. Scary crap. The phantom cat is also known as the Gippsland big cat, has been reported since 1970. Dr. John Henry, a researcher from Deakin University, studied the reported sightings from 1970 and concluded that it was proven beyond reasonable doubt that large cats were roaming the Grampians region of Victoria. In June 2005, Kurt Engel, a deer hunter from Noble Park, shot what he claimed was a large cat in rugged terrain near the town of Sale. Engel photographed the dead cat before cutting off its 26-inch long tail and dumping the body in a river. Mitochondrial DNA testing result determined that the beast was a feral cat, at least on its mother's side. So if they can only determine what the mother is, I wonder what the hell the father was then. Because still, a 26 long tail on a cat is pretty long.
Yeah, it is.
Um, in, yeah. So I don't know why you would have dumped the body. It's like, okay, you've got this massive tail, but wouldn't you take the rest of the body to scientists and go, hey, I shot and killed this. What is it?
Maybe they were too afraid, like that they killed an endangered species.
Yeah, but I can see it from that point, but also wouldn't it also be like, okay, I just shot and killed something that we've never seen before. We don't know what it is. This would be one for the books. I know some people aren't like money hungry and all that, but this would be one where I'd be like, let's get this tested and find out what it is.
Yeah, true.
Because then you could end up like poor Dag Simmons and get something named after you.
Yeah,
And if people get that reference, put it in the chat because I reckon Emmy won't know the reference to the late Dag Simmons.
probably not. No.
Did you ever read the Far Side comics by
No.
what's his name? Lark.
Mm-mm.
Okay, so he wrote a comic that had a picture of scientists going over the tail of one of the dinosaurs with some spikes coming out of the end of the tail. Now, the scientist goes, now, in memory of the late Dag Simmons, they named it Dag Simeon or something. Now, funnily enough, real scientists looked at that cartoon and turned around and realized that that particular body part, which they knew about, they didn't actually have a name for, so they named it after the Dag Simmons.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it was just a real nice bit of uh, cartoon catching up to real life science and having an effect, which is really interesting. but then again, he's done a lot of things like the Jane Goodall comic that he made. Like their team originally said no. Once Jane Goodall found out, she went, pardon the pun, ape shit, and freaking told him off and said go ahead and do it. And she's used that particular comic strip for years to help raise money for the foundation that she ran while she was alive.
Oh, that's neat. Good for
Yeah,
them.
yeah, yeah. You wouldn't think those little pop culture moments could have such a like massive, long lasting effect on real life with things.
Yeah.
Okay, so it does say here the Gippsland big cat is closely related to similar tales of exotic felines that have been reported for many decades in the Blue Mountains, west of Sydney. The general consensus among experts is that sightings of the large domestic cats, or feral descendants of domestic cats others believe to be the Gippsland phantom cat, can be traced back to pumas let loose by United States military who were based in Victoria during World War II. A pair of pumas or other large cats were used as mascots at the end of the war. It is speculated that the animals were released into the wild, somewhere in the Gippsland region, although some claim the cats were released in the Grampians National Park, where they subsequently bred. Aren't pumas those like they're about medium-sized cats that will stalk humans in the Americas?
Um, yeah, we just call them mountain lions. But medium size, I don't maybe.
Like they would come up to you, like they would come up to a normal, like I'm what 5'7", they would come up to your knee, roughly.
Yeah, I'd say that's about right. Maybe a little bit bigger. Yeah, that's about right.
Okay, good to know that my anything but the US system of measuring things is actually correct.
Um,
I still think that that's a weird way to do things, but it's hilarious how often that is actually better to visualize what you're talking about.
it's interesting how your cryptids are like essentially wild cats, and over here it's like a wild gorilla or oversized gorilla. Like it's just interesting how different your cryptids are from like our cryptids. Do you guys have a version of Bigfoot over in Australia?
I think the thing that we would have would be the drop bear would be the most famous, but we do have the bunyip and the yowie and stuff like that, which I will get to. But surprisingly, as per a previous comment, when Kimmy was on the channel with us, we actually have a living dinosaur too. I found the article for it.
It's not a crocodile or an alligator.
No, it's actually a living dinosaur.
I don't want to hear about that. I have a verified Bigfoot sighting. First verified Bigfoot sighting.
Okay, I'm all in for this. All right, got my popcorn. Go.
Okay. This is from Michigan. Um, I believe the acronym for DNR is Department of Natural Resources. I think that's their state forestry or conservation department. But this was published in the Detroit News. It's a newspaper. It looks like around October 17, 2025. And it was republished in Amazing Nature. So that's where I'm reading it from. Michigan DNR confirms first verified Bigfoot sighting. In the dead of night, the remote Huron Mountains near Big Bay, Michigan, transformed into the epicenter of one of the most thrilling discoveries in cryptozoology. Just after 1:30 a.m. on October 15, Two conservation officers were conducting a routine patrol when their thermal drone captured a staggering sight. A massive figure, over 7 feet tall, was moving through the thick pine forest. Initially, they assumed it was a bear, but the creature's upright posture and the heat signature it emitted told a far different story. The officers launched a second drone, hoping for a clearer view. What they captured next was astonishing. Thermal footage revealing a large bipedal creature, its strides deliberate, transversing a ridgeline before vanishing into the tree line. Thinking it was just another case of mistaken identity, they were stunned when they arrived at the scene. The ground told a chilling story. 18-inch tracks were imprinted deep into the damp forest floor, standing as undeniable evidence of the creature's passage. As if that wasn't enough, tufts of dark hair caught on broken branch were recovered, further confirming the sighting and sending shockwaves through the conservation community and Bigfoot enthusiasts alike. This marked the first confirmed sighting of Bigfoot that was backed by video, physical evidence, and not just one, but multiple trained witnesses. The pride of Michigan's Department of Natural Resources saw a surge of interest, with skeptics and believers alike flocking to the Huron Mountains. Of course, this revelation brought both excitement and caution. The DNR quickly put a temporary restriction on access to the area, permitting only biologists and investigators to enter while they conducted DNA testing on the mysterious hair samples. The anticipation surrounding the results has gripped many, stirring debates and discussions online as fans of the legendary creature speculate about the implications of such evidence. Since the news broke, social media has erupted with theories, memes, and even fears about what could be lurking in those dark forests. Many are drawn to the idea of an undiscovered species living right under our noses, while others remain cautious, awaiting scientific validation before embracing the tale of the gentle giant. The event is monumental, not only for Bigfoot enthusiasts, but also for science and conservation. It evokes a sense of awe and wonder about what else might be waiting to be discovered in the vast, unexplored corners of nature. Reflecting on this event requires more than just acceptance or denial of a mythical creature's existence. It poses questions about the mysteries of our world, that it means to be a believer or skeptic. If something as monumental as Bigfoot can be caught on camera, what other secrets are still hidden from us in the wild? And that's it.
First off, holy hell, that was shocking to say the least. Like several points that pointed out that stand out to me is the fact that they went in with drones first. Several drones like thermal cameras, infrared cameras, and all that kind of stuff. But I think that's the way to do it in future because one, you're leaving no tracks behind. Therefore, it's not as easy as for the cryptid to be spooked by our presence. The fact that the DNR is also taking this highly serious is a step in the right direction because normally governmental bodies will blow it off. Yeah, yeah, whatever. It's it's swamp gas or whatever. That they will make up stories to say that. But the fact that this particular group is taking it like far more seriously than anything in the past um, makes me wonder if this is also part of that same decree when Trump said he would release all the alien stuff. That's why they're taking it so serious now. Um, Yeah, and the fact that they've got hair samples, which I hope to hell come back as something different other than deer or some other game creature walking past. I'm like everyone else. I think we want proof of something intangible being out there. That would be great for I think for humans as a species, really, because it'll be one that can actually sit back and rock us on our heels and go, we're technically not alone. There are things out there, and that would give credence because I know Huron Mountain also has the Dogmen, and they have there's another cryptid out there as well. That could also lend credence to, well, if Bigfoot are real, what else is real? What else don't we know? Um, and I think a lot of the questions over the years that have been blown off are going to come back and basically haunt us.
Yeah, I really haven't heard of Bigfoot in Michigan. I don't know if someone is from Michigan, can they tell me? But I originally thought that Bigfoot was in the Pacific Northwest or West Coast.
Isn't that
Um,
where they filmed that video, the hoax one?
yeah, that was, I believe in, I want to say California. And then Bigfoot kind of changes when you go to Southern California than in Northern California. So Northern California's Bigfoot. Southern California, they call it the Yucca Man.
I've heard of
And
that
then
name. Mm,
and then I'm not sure if we talked about Bigfoot in the East Coast in Appalachia. Um, but I
mm.
think isn't it in Asia they have Yeti or the
Yeah,
abominable snowman or
that'd be like the Tibetan mountains and all that, where they have the abominable snowman. The I know the Yeti is around in other areas, and like as I said, we've got our own, as in the Yowie. So
so maybe he does exist or maybe maybe he's a new species that has been in front of our eyes this whole time, but for some reason he's evaded human,
mm,
detection, because we're finding new things all the time. I mean, we haven't even explored what 90% of our oceans. Who's to say that there's not mermaids down there or something even worse,
mm. um, Milo Rossi put a short up today about these phytoplanktons that all come together. Like they're all individual creatures, but they all come together to create these big, long creatures. And like they all work as a colony. It's like really interesting. So the fact that we're still finding out about things like that is, yeah.
Jesse and Max. When you say Yeti or Bigfoot are new species, I hear Blake Lively. I need a vacay. Have you been binging my channel? um, yeah, like, and who's to say that there's not really like leprechauns, or I would like the idea of fairies, honestly, like nice fairies. Um,
Now that you bring up fairies, do you remember that very famous photograph of the fairies dancing in the garden at the bottom of the garden? Some English girls.
I think so, but I thought it was fake.
Yeah, that came out not that long ago. That was like they had
Yeah,
actually pinned them to the thing to make them. Yeah.
yeah, that was a little disappointing, but what was it? I think it was my niece was commenting that fairies might be like shapeshifters. Like maybe they exist and they shape to be bigger things and then they shrink down to like hide. So like example, My niece thought that there was someone at the door, right? She heard a knock, like a knock. So she looks outside, nothing. And there's a knock at the door again, and it's in the middle of the night. So she answers it, and there's a bunny there, like a bunny rabbit, like a hoppity hoppity bunny rabbit.
The hell?
And she was like, and then she was texting me, and I'm like, don't answer the freaking door. What if it's like some evil spirit thing or like something that's like waiting for you to open the door and then like your house gets like possessed or something? I don't know. My mind was going crazy like when she was telling me the story. So, um, and she was like, what if it's a fairy or like a skinwalker?
Skinwalkers, yeah. I've read lot of that Skinwalker ranch stuff, and that scares the crap out of me.
Well, skinwalkers, I think, are only exclusive to the Navajo Native American culture. And then, like, shapeshifters are something different outside of that. So that's really scary.
Like the thing with fairies, and I think a few other creatures, like I just wonder like, if they are with us, for example, and they are shapeshifters, what if they like spend all day as one thing, but we don't see what they like? We see them as one thing, but they see themselves as something different, and it's only occasionally that particular form slips, so we get to see the true thing beneath.
Mm. Jesse and Max, sorry, wants to know what a skinwalker is.
You seem to know more about it than I do, so
Okay, let me give you like the official, an official see if there's it in here. I'm on Wikipedia, by the way, and I Googled cryptids, and I have a big giant list of like everything. Well, not everything, but let me see.
yeah, I'm just using the cryptid fandom page for my information.
All right, I'm gonna Google it. Um, I do have a crazy paranormal patient story about a cryptid. Um, so I was a nurse in a pretty rural area. Um, and a patient was like, I have a picture of a leprechaun. He called it a leprechaun and he showed me it. And he said that you have to look really closely at it. And I was looking at this picture, and all it looked like was just grass that I was looking at. But then if you looked at it closely, you could see maybe an outline of something,
Hmm.
and I was like, huh. And then if you looked at pictures after it, it looked like the thing faded into the grass and it just looked like a grass outline instead of like a tiny, I don't know, person with a pointy hat on.
Perception filled up. That's why I think the drones and all that with the thermal imaging and all that. I think it would be good if we can get one that sees in ultraviolet light too. That would be
Mm.
interesting to see what, because a lot of animals that can do that, would be very interesting to see if we can see something in the ultraviolet light that we ourselves cannot pick up, because that would prove a lot more of those theories. Oh, we see things, but if it's something that runs around in a different spectrum of light than what we can physically see, then that would give credence to a lot of things too.
Mm-hmm. Skinwalker. So this is a Native American culture. A skinwalker is a type of harmful witch who has the ability to turn into, possess, or disguise themselves as an animal. The term is never used for healers. So these are witches, and then there's a harmful witch, and then there's a healer. And I'm going to butcher this. The Yi Na. Okay, I'm just going to skip that. Translating to by of it, it goes on all fours, is one of several types of skinwalkers within Navajo beliefs. These witches are seen as the anti is it antithesis? Am I reading that right? Antithesis of Navajo values, performing malevolent ceremonies and using manipulative magic in stark contrast to the beneficial works of medicine people. The legend of skinwalkers is deeply embedded in Navajo tradition and rarely discussed with outsiders. Um, I don't know how to say this word. Reticence. Does that make sense? This reticence is partly due to cultural taboos and the lack of contextual understanding by non Navajos. Stories often depict skinwalkers using their powers for evil, and they are considered a source of fear and mystery within Navajo communities. Traditional accounts describe them as powerful sorcerers who, after engaging in various nefarious acts, gain the ability to transform into animals at will.
I, reading that, I don't think it's pure Navajo territory. I think there's no Norwegian legends. Um, there's a particular witch. Um, she will turn you into a horse and basically ride you at night.
Oh,
And then
wow.
if she catches you over and over again, eventually she will ride you to death. And that's the same with the Selkies, similar to slipping the skins and transforming into humans and stuff.
Jesse and Max says, so hell no, I'm already never camping again. I've already decided against camping when we went with Appalachia. I will be glamping. No, I don't even think I could glamp. I will be in a staycation somewhere where, you know, yeah, I don't get snatched up by anything paranormal.
I would like as I said, I would love to go on a eventually go on a road trip around Australia to you know like go up north to see the crocodile farms and all that kind of stuff. Maybe go to the Whitsundays and then travel around the top of Australia and then down through Western Australia and then back across the Nullarbor. But when I get to the Nullarbor, that's going to be the thing that scares the crap out of me because the Nullarbor is one of I think it's one of the world's longest open roads where you have no road stops, no water, no nothing. And there have been reports from people going on the train, people driving, seeing phantom vehicles, phantom, like UFOs, lights, aliens, and everything else. That'd be the one thing I would love to go and do. And then, of course, once I get across down to the bottom of the show, go down to Tasmania, Phillip Island, and all that, and then make my way back up through South Australia, back to New South Wales, and then back up to Queensland.
That is not a bad road trip. That is way cool.
I'm used to the I am I've done the Sydney to Brisbane trip several times. Like I know they've improved it a lot. They've definitely brought the times down because it used to take us as kids like 20 something hours to drive it, and now it's like 12. Um, there are really good spots to go and visit. Like as I said the other day, like the Big Banana at Coffs Harbour and stuff like that. because for some weird reason we have like the big sheep, the big banana, the big prawn, and yeah, these various other big attractions to go and visit.
Hmm.
I think there's even a big thong that Jesse would like, but it's not the thong you're thinking of. Sorry,
All right.
we're getting way off topic.
What else you got for a cryptid?
I tell you what, I'm going to go into some of the mythological ones. I've mentioned the bunyip a couple of times now, so I will bring up the bunyip. Is it on this particular site, the cryptidsfandom.com? Um,
Mhm.
I did try posting the link, but it didn't let me. So yeah, this is interesting. So for the bunyip, it does have two names: the bunyip and the Kian Prati. It is actually a lake monster. First sighted in 1818, last sighted 1852. Habitat is New South Wales, Victoria, and throughout Australia. Um, the bunyip is also known as the Kian Prati. It is a creature from Aboriginal mythology in southeastern Australia. It is said to live in swamps, billabongs, creeks, riverbeds, and waterholes. The word bunyip translates into devil or evil spirit in the Wemba Wemba language. Don't
Mm.
ask me where the Wemba Wemba tribe comes from. As I said when we were offline that time, the Australian Aboriginal map for languages is bloody huge. It's like pockets of languages everywhere. I wouldn't even know where to look for that one. Physical description to the bunyip varies. Some say it is dog-like face, dark fur, a horse-like tail, flippers, walrus-like tusks, a crocodile-like head, and a duck-like bill. I wonder if people who came up with that description are smoking the same thing when they were first describing the platypus, which is why the platypus was thought to be a cryptid for a long time. There are even claims that it resembles a snake with a beard. While its wide range of descriptions make it difficult to determine its appearance, it's agreed that the bunyip is aquatic or semi-aquatic. Um, One of the earliest encounters of the bunyip occurred in 1818 when the explorers James Meehan and Hamilton Hume discovered large bones in Lake Bathurst in New South Wales. They did not call the creature a bunyip, but described the remains as similar to a manatee or a hippopotamus.
Ah,
Hmm.
that makes logical sense.
My issue with that is Australia did have an inland sea for such a long time. Um, that was full of like all kinds of like dinosaur like creatures, like the ones with the long necks and stuff like that.
Hmm.
I'm wondering if you come across like a remnant of that former seabed that like something died, like dinosaur like creatures died, and that's the bones they've discovered.
Yeah, maybe it was like a, I don't know, like a visual mismatch,
Hmm.
like your eyes
Well,
play tricks on you, like you're only supposed to believe what half of what you see.
yeah,
Something like, isn't that the old adage? What is it? My mom used to say it all the time, and I forgot what it was. Be
yeah.
careful,
It's like,
scared,
but
only
you
something.
believe half of what you see and a quarter of what you hear, something like that.
Yeah, kind of like Loch Ness monster. Someone said it could have been like a log.
Hmm.
I don't know if that's
That's it.
cool, but
Uh,
like,
what was that? Only a couple of months ago, the Sunshine Coast, which is the next big population up from where I live. It's about an hour north of where I am. They were claiming they had seen a crocodile in the Noosa River, and it was just a fucking tree log.
mhm,
It still makes me laugh. So, so getting back to this, so by in the mid 1830s, the fossilized bones uh, was were first discovered by That's kind of weird. It says they were first discovered in the 1830s, but we had some people discovering bones in the 1880s. 1818, sorry. Um, Fossilized bones were discovered by George Rankin and later by Thomas Mitchell in Wellington Caves in New South Wales. British uh, entomologist Sir Richard Owen identified the fossils as the marsupials Diprotodon nototherium. If I remember, Diprotodon is the giant um, crap. Crap. It's the one that poops bloody square bloody poop.
Nope, never heard of that.
God damn it. Hold on. Wombat. Thank you. Giant, like a giant marsupial wombat. And yes, they poop giant. Um, the reason why the wombats poop the square poop because they use it to help build a wall, and yeah, it's easier for them to get it out of the thing. Right,
Oh,
so
huh.
yeah, it's interesting. I don't know what the Nototherium is though. Okay, so in July 1845, the Geelong Advertiser describes the bunyip in great detail. It was also the first recorded use of the term bunyip. In 1847, an unusual skull was found on the Murrumbidgee riverbanks near Balranald, New South Wales. The initial report suggested that it was the skull of an unidentified creature. By July 1847, several experts had identified the skull as that of a deformed foal or calf. Despite this, it was put on an exhibition at the Australian Museum in Sydney as evidence of a bunyip. I'm not even going to touch that one because that's in line with what's his name, Barnum, the Barnum Circus, and the crap
Oh.
he pulled.
Mm-hmm.
One legend says that a man named Bunyip broke the Rainbow Spirit's greatest law by eating his totem animal. But banished by the spirit, Biami, the man became an evil spirit that lured tribesmen and the livestock into the water so he could eat them. I would love for an expanded version on that. 1857, in an article titled "The Bunyip", a newspaper reported the drawings made by Edwin Stockwheeler. Amongst the latter drawings, we notice the likeness of the bunyip, or rather a view of the neck and the shoulders of the animal. Mr. Stockwheeler informs us that the bunyip is a large freshwater seal having two small padules or fins attached to the shoulders, a long swan-like neck, a head like a dog, a curious bag hanging under the jaw, resembling the pouch of a pelican. The animal is covered with hair, like the platypus, and is glossy black. Mr. Stockwheeler saw no less than 6 of these curious animals at different times. His boat was in 30 feet of one of them near Maguire's Punt on the Goulburn, and he fired at the bunyip, but he did not succeed in capturing him. The smallest appearance is about 5 feet in length, and the largest exceeding 15 feet. The head of the largest size was about the size of a bullock's head, and 3 feet out of the water. After taking a sketch of the animal, Mr. Stockwheeler showed it to several blacks of the Goulburn tribe, who declared the picture was the bunyip's brother, meaning a duplicate or likeness of the bunyip. These animals moved against the current at a rate of about 7 miles an hour. Mr. Stockwheeler states that he could have approached close to the specimens he observed, had he not been deterred by the stories of the natives concerning the power and the fury of the bunyip, and the fact that his gun only had a single barrel, and his boat was of a very frail description. Okay, so it says here that the bunyip could be a misidentification of a known species, with suggestions such as leopard or elephant seals, cassowaries, or the Australian bitterns. I think that might be a bird. Um, but it's also believed that the bunyip could be a surviving diprotodont or other extinct Australian marsupial. One of the
Mm,
very probable reasons why the bunyip has so many different features, appearances, and interpretations is likely that most likely because this creature was born of the memories of many different prehistoric and modern animals, all mixed and matched together with the different concentrations of creatures featuring depending on who you ask. Like a Lego bin full of ancestral memories passed down from generation to generations, with parts and prices added on. You know what? That's actually a very unique way of looking at that. I
yeah.
actually like that. Um, with parts and pieces taken out and added back in over the years, it is truly an awesome thing. And of course, with all these different features, that widens the requirement for somebody seeing something, whether it be a crocodile, a seal, birds, or a late surviving diprotodont, or your mother going for a swim. I'm sorry, I didn't put that in. Yeah, that was actually that's in the article. Um, to be pointed at and labelled a bunyip sighting. Traditionally speaking, the bunyip is very much a spirit creature. It wasn't meant to be a flesh and blood animal, but we as a modern man have interpreted it as one. And what if the bunyip is not up for interpretation? Ah, God damn it. Sorry, it reset itself. Uh, but with them, and what if the bunyip is not up for interpretation? Um, there's actually a horror movie called Bunyip. Uh, there's also one called The Red Billabong.
Oh, actually, you should send me those links so I can watch that.
Yeah, I'll take a screenshot and then I can send it for you. Um, it's also in a game called Scribblenauts.
Oh, okay.
In Melbourne, apparently there's a statue of the bunyip. Ooh, apparently, in the Godzilla King of the Monsters movie, the bunyip was actually made an appearance on one of the monitors that was awakened by the call of Ghidorah. Hmm. So I wonder if that means they're gonna like if they do make another Godzilla movie with the more monsters, the bunyip might actually make an appearance.
That's interesting how they can still make movies about, all these mythical creatures. Like it's endless. Like they'll never run out of material.
No, and I honestly think the Australian mythological creatures is definitely ripe for plundering in the media because the American ones have been done to death, basically. Um, and same with a few of the other more famous ones in Japan and everything. So it would be interesting to see different cultures, mythological creatures actually get the screen time.
Mm-hmm.
I got,
Uh, yep.
and also, there's a lot of, like what you're saying, the mythical creatures can be confused for like our regular creatures. We just didn't know exactly, like the platypus. Like we thought it was a cryptid, but it became a real thing. Like, like maybe some of these sightings haven't been verified, or maybe they were verified into, are creatures like the mermaid. Maybe the mermaid is a squid or something like that. But back then they called it a mermaid. I don't know. It was just a crazy comparison. But speaking of mermaids, I brought up this like historical story about sirens, or what I call mermaids.
Yep.
Um
Sirens are interesting. Go ahead. You've got the thing now. I'm gonna mute my mic so you can go ahead and tell this one.
Get your popcorn ready because this one's a longer a longer article from Heritage History.
Sadly, I'm out of popcorn. I ate it all.
Huh?
Sadly, I'm out of popcorn. I ate it all.
Oh, okay. So this is, I'm going to butcher this name, Odd, how Odysseus escaped from the sirens and how his ship was wrecked.
That's Odysseus, by the way.
Say it again.
Odysseus.
Odysseus. Okay. I thought it was. I thought I was saying it wrong. Okay. And an island in the blue sea where the ship of Odysseus would cut its homeward way lived some beautiful mermaids called sirens. Even more beautiful than the sirens' faces were their lovely voices. In the flowery meadows of their island, they sat singing their sweet songs, and the sailors whose ships were passing could not forbear to go on shore. And there were they slain by the wicked mermaids. Oh, I didn't know that. All around them in the meadows where the sirens sat were the bones of the men they had slain. But these the foolish sailors did not see. They only saw the bright colored flowers and the mermaids' lovely faces and long golden hair, and the songs whose melody mingled with the sound of the little white fringed waves that swished up on the yellow sand stole their hearts away. Against these mermaids, Circe had warned Odysseus, and he repeated her warnings to his men. A gentle breeze sped the ship of Odysseus quickly on its way, but as they neared the island, the sirens by their spells sent a dead calm, and the waves were lulled to sleep. Not a breath of air filled the white sails. So the men drew them in and stowed them in the hold and rowed with their long oars until the green water grew white. Meantime, Odysseus, as Circe had forbidden him, took a great piece of wax, cut it in pieces with his sharp sword, and quickly molded it with his strong hands. Soon the wax grew warm and soft, and with it he then filled the ears of each of his men. He himself used no wax, but made his company bind him hand and foot upright to the mast. If, when I hear the voices of the mermaidens, I struggle and sign to thee to set me free, then bind me yet more bonds, said Odysseus. Drive thy ship swiftly past the island, Circe had said. So the men bent to their oars and smote the gray seawater. Past the island drove the dark prowed ship, but the sirens, seeing it, began their sweet song. Come hither, brave Odysseus, they sang. Here stay thy black ship and listen to our song. No one hath ever passed this way in his ship till he hath heard from our lips the music that is sweet as honeycomb, and hath had joy of it, and gone on his way the wiser. All things are known to us. We sing to thee of thy great fights and victories in Troyland. We shall sing of all the things that shall be hereafter. Come hither, Odysseus. So sweet and so full of magic were their voices that when Odysseus had heard their song and seen them smilingly beckoning to him from amongst the flowers, he tried to make his men unbind him. Frowning and nodding, he signed to them to set him free. And I'm going to butcher this, but is it Eurylochus? Eurylochus? And another rose from their places and bound him yet more tightly to the mast. The men themselves, deafened by the wax, heard none of the song and wished not to stop. but stoutly rowed onward. When the island was left behind and Odysseus no longer heard the silvery voices, but only the moan of the waxes far away and the rush of the water off the oars, the men took the wax from their ears and unbound their captain. Soon they heard a sound far different from the song of the sirens. Thou shalt pass the wandering rocks, Circle had said. Their great and furious waves dash themselves up on the rugged cliffs. Even the wild birds cannot fly past them, but are beaten down by the force of the spray. The whirlpool besides them tosses up and churns about continually the flanks of the ships and the bodies of the men it has destroyed. When Odysseus heard the thunder of the sea and saw mighty waves rushing and roaring against the rocks, and the smoke of the spray dashing up to the sky, he knew that they had reached the wandering rocks. So terrible were the sights and sounds that the men let the oars slip from their hands and stared and listened in horror. But Odysseus paced along the ship and spoke cheering words to them. This is no greater woe, he said, than what we bore when we were pinned into his cave by the cannibal giant. From that cave we escaped, and someday I think we shall be able also to talk of this adventure. Only do now as I say. Ye oarsmen, drive thine oars deep and strongly into the angry surf, and row with all thy might. And thou, at the helm, keep the ship well away from the great waves and the spray, and hug the rocks, so we may escape even from this peril. But the wandering rocks were not the only danger there for the ship. Beyond them were yet two huge rocks between which the sea swept. One of these, a dark and dreadful peak, ran straight up to the sky. Over it hung a black cloud, even the fairest summer weather. No mortal could climb it, not even if he had 20 hands and feet, for it was smooth and slippery as glass. In this cliff was a dark cave in which lived a horrible monster called, I'm going to butcher this too, Skyla. All day and night she yelped like a savage dog. She had 12 feet and 6 heads, each head with 3 rows of sharp teeth. Up to her waist, she was hidden in the darkness of the cave. Her 6 heads, with their long necks, constantly swooped and craned and darted out like great fierce birds, and seized all the dolphins and sea dogs and big fishes that came within reach. When ships passed near her cave, Skyla had a feast, for with each head she would seize a sailor and crunch him up with her horrid teeth. Opposite this cliff was another rock, on which grew a great fig tree in full leaf. Beneath it dwelt another monster. I'm going to butcher this one too. Uh, is it Charybdis? Charybdis? 3 times a day, Charybdis sucked down the salt seawater, and 3 times a day did she force it out, and again from her black cave under the sea. If a ship passed while she sucked, it was drawn down into the dreadful gulf where the monster lived, and only its fragments were tossed up in the boiling surf. Odysseus spoke to his men of the wandering rocks, but he dared not tell them of Scylla or I'm going to Charybdis, lest in their terror they should cease to row and hide themselves in the hold. When Circe warned him of the dangers he would meet, he asked her how he could best escape from Scylla and Charybdis. Scylla is no mortal, Circe had said. She cannot be fought with, and against her there is no defense. Tarry not to put on thy armor and to fight. Drive past her with all thy force. But when the noise of the furious sea and the hideous yelping of Scylla were in his ears, Odysseus forgot what Circe had said. He hated Scylla so much that he longed to slay her. Hastily he put on his shiny armor and caught up two long lances and stood at the prow, ready to fight with the monster of the rock. His eyes grew weary in peering into the darkness of the cave, from whence he expected her hideous heads to dart. But when he saw nothing and turned away at last to gaze at the black whirlpool of Charybdis, white-faced with terror of it, the men rowed steadily, while Charybdis gulped down the water and threw it up again in swirling surf and spray that dashed to the tops of the cliffs. Past the wandering rocks, they rowed their ship in safety. Amongst past the black cliff of Scylla, they had pulled almost past the fierce whirlpool when six monster heads swooped out from the blackness of the cave. In a moment, six of the men were seized and borne alift, struggling in the greedy jaws of Scylla and crying pitifully to Odysseus for help. But no help Odysseus give. The monster had her meal, and evermore Odysseus remembered the sight of the death of his six brave men as the pitifullest thing he had ever seen. At last, when the rocks were left behind, the ship came to a fair island where grazed and sacred cattle of the god of the sun. Hurt not the cattle on that fair island, Circe had said, for if thou hurtest them, ruin shall come on thy ship and thy men. Even though shouldest thyself escape, thou shalt return home in evil plight with the loss of all thy company. The lowing of the cattle as the ship neared the fair island made Odysseus think of the evils that might come. He begged his men to row on the past the isle. Then Eurylochus spoke. Surely thou art made of iron, and thy limbs are never weary, Odysseus, he said. Thy men are worn out, yet instead of letting them land and allowing them to prepare a good supper, thou, thou drivest them on. Thou biddest us row blindly through the black night and go wandering on the misty deep. In the night blow the winds that wreck ships. How shall we weary men escape if a sudden fierce blast should blow? Let us rather rest here and sup. In the fair morning light, we will start again and row homeward across the sea. The tired men agreed with Eurylochus. Then said Odysseus, promise then that none of ye will slay any of the sacred oxen of the sun, but that ye will be content to eat of the food we have with us. Straightway they promised, and the ship was anchored in a little harbor near where was a well of sweet water, and soon they had supper ready on the shore. As darkness fell, they talked much of their dear friends that Scylla had devoured, and weeping for their loss, they fell asleep. A great storm raged through the night, but dawn broke rosy and clear. When it was morning, they dragged the ship ashore and hid it in a hollow cave. All that day a strong south wind blew, and every day for a month it never ceased. and they dared not to go afloat again because of the fierceness of the gales. At first, the men had plenty of food and were all content. But presently, the food began to fail, and they had to try to catch fish, and to wander in the island, and to try to kill birds to eat. But hunger gnawed them. One day, when they were all very hungry, Odysseus left his men by the sea and went away to the middle of the island by himself, that might think what to do and how they might best return home. Shall we die of hunger, he said to the others, and yet have good food so near us? Let us slay some of the best of these straight horned cattle, and we are home at Ithaca. Let us bind a splendid altar to the god of the sun and give him many rich gifts. But if we should be angry at us for slaying the cattle and should wreck our ship, far better we should so die than we should slowly starve to death on this desert island. The men quickly, as Eurylochus advised, the finest of the cattle that were feeding near the slain, and soon savory pieces of their flesh were roasting on spits at the fire which had been kindled. While they feasted, Odysseus awoke and hurried down to the shore. As he drew near, the smell of the roasting flesh met him, and he groaned aloud with horror. One by one he rebuked his men, but it was too late. The cattle were dead and gone, and the evil could not be mended. Already the men rued what they had done, for strange and fearful things befell. The skins of the dead beasts were creepy. The flesh bellowed upon the spits as it was being cooked, and the sounds of the lowing of many cattle filled the air. Yet they hardened their hearts, and for 6 days their feast went on. On the seventh day, the wind at last ceased to blow heavy gales, and Odysseus and his men launched their ship and hoisted its white sails as soon had left the island far behind. When they were out of sight of all land and saw only sky and sea, a dark cloud appeared over the ship. The water darkened beneath it. Then, on a sudden, with a shrill scream, a great tempest burst upon them. The mast snapped before its furious rush and fell with a crash on the pilot, crushing his head, so that he dropped like a diver into the sea. Sorry, just a second. Need to get back into the chat. Where was I? Okay. At that minute, a mighty thunderbolt smote the ship, filling it with flame and sulfur and making it reel over to one side. The men fell from it into the sea, and for one moment Odysseus saw them, like seagulls borne aloft the great waves around the ship. Then they sank, and he never saw them more. Still Odysseus paced his ship till the storm and the sea had smashed her into pieces. Then he lashed the keel and the mast together, and sitting on it was driven onward by the furious winds. All night he was carried swiftly on, and when the sun rose, he found the winds and the waves had carried him close to Silica and Chabatis. The black whirlpool of Chabatis gaped to swallow him, but as the piece of wreckage to which he clung went down into the gulf, Odysseus made a mighty leap and seized hold of the fig tree that grew on the cliff. He held on to it like a bat until Charybdis had cast up again and the piece of broken mast. The moment it appeared, Odysseus let himself drop into the sea just beyond it, and clambering
on to it. He rode hard with his hands. Silica was not on the outlook, or it would have gone ill with him, but he safely escaped from her and from Charybdis. For 9 days and nights he was tossed by the waves. On the night of the ninth day, the mast drifted to shores of an island, and Odysseus, little life left in him, crawled onto the dry land. Wow, that was a story.
Yeah,
Uh,
very, very interesting. But yeah, I did post a question in the chat, Emmy. Let's see if you can answer that one.
my question over Charybdis is her father is Poseidon, her mother is Gaia. How does a god screw up? What?
Exactly. Technically, Poseidon's the god of the ocean. So how does he, and Gaia is Mother Earth. So according to that, how does a god impregnate a planet to make her give birth to monsters?
That's an interesting plot hole I wasn't expecting.
Sorry, I do have passing familiarity with the different god pantheons and
Oh, I
some of the
love
crap
the
that they.
mythical gods. I just didn't go. I've just never gone deep down into that like that. Um, Also, it's been a while since I've studied them, so yeah. I mean, maybe this was a squid or an octopus.
Yeah, who knows? It's yeah. I know with gods, technically all things are possible. Um, but yeah,
Well,
it still
I
makes one
just
think about
like
things.
I've never heard of it like this, to be honest. Like the sirens, I thought that was like I totally didn't think it was related to what would you call it? Greek mythology? Mythology? Am I saying that
Mm,
correctly?
yep.
Like I didn't know because I thought sirens and mermaids was like a maritime shipwreck thing, like my ship was wrecked by like a giant squid or octopus or something.
Yeah, I think you are correct with a lot of it was like from the shipwreck stories and that. Interestingly enough, the whole thing to do with the Kraken thing, I saw a very interesting theory on it the other day. Was it's actually to do with sperm whales. That what they thought was the Kraken coming up out of the water was sperm whales getting ready to mate. Because what they'll do, they'll breach with their members sticking up, but they'll roll over in the ocean so the members are sticking up out of the water while they're waiting to get it on with the female. And I think what a lot of them were seeing was a whole heap of sperm whales getting together and doing that, and they were thinking it was a kraken.
Oh, that would make really good sense because you wouldn't even know what you're looking at because you would only see a partial of the animal, you know?
And from what the guy was saying, a sperm whale's happy member is pretty bloody big.
Yeah. And I can only imagine in the open water, you don't have anything to, what is it, for comparison. So you would think that it's way, well, I'm sure it's way big, but you know what I mean?
Mm.
That's
Yeah, it's just like one of the other creatures, like the Humboldt squid has the name the Red Devil, because people weren't sure what exactly they were up until recently. But because they flash red when they're going into attack mode to eat and everything, and sometimes they would, accidentally attack humans that were in the water. But yeah, it's like, yeah, sometimes you don't know, you just see one thing, and yeah,
Yeah. Um, the Wrath Proposer says, and maybe they saw giant squids.
Yeah, well, maybe because they think that the giant squids are less prone to coming to the top of the ocean now because the way the ships sound in the water now sound a lot different to the way the creaking of the ships would have been, like the wooden ships would have been in the water way back then. So they were coming up thinking that the creaking of the wood and all that kind of stuff was something they could eat. So they'd come up and investigate, and then once they realised it wasn't, they'd bugger off. But modern ships don't do that. Um, but I also think it's the amount of sound we are actually putting into the water too. Because
Mm-hmm.
they've done a study just recently. Whales are starting to register at different. Their songs are starting to register at higher hertz, so they can be heard because we're invading the sound that they used to use. Um, so I'm wondering if because we've invaded most of the ocean with like our own sounds and all that kind of thing, things that were from the deep that would come up and investigate no longer do so because it's unsafe for them to do so because they're like, well, to them, we're the kraken, you know, so they stay away.
No, that makes perfect sense. Especially in the water where frequency, you know, goes pretty darn far. I mean, yeah,
Hmm.
that's like the same concept as far as sound, man-made sound. You ever, I think it's a new thing. You ever hear of that like it's like a rodent detector, but it uses some sort of like frequency to deter them. And like you
Yeah,
just put
yeah.
it to your wall and
I,
it's supposed to do this thing.
I actually looked into getting one of those for see if they could work on like roaches and stuff like that. But yeah, sadly, it's just yeah.
Yeah, like maybe that's the same concept and that's what we're doing in our water. Um,
Hmm.
what do you think the mermaids are? Do you think the mermaids are like
Um, I think the mermaids are a like misseeing of things like probably like in the shallow waters like the manatees and stuff like that were originally thought to be mermaids. Um, which just goes to show when you're in a boat and you've been out there for God knows how long and you're horny, you will see anything in your delirium as a potential mate. So I don't know. I think it could be part of that. Them being drunk and whatever. So um, as for sirens in particular, having been on an ocean cruise, like in the middle of the night, because I actually like, I think we were heading to Suva, and I actually slept out on deck one night, and you can hear weird sounds coming off the water. And you're in the middle of nowhere. Like I'm just wondering if it could be from that, because you're in the middle of nowhere. It's dark, and back then like I didn't have the hum of the ship, right? I had the hum of the ship and everything else. But if you're on a wooden boat and the sounds of the sails and the creak of the wood and all that, and you hear something different, what would you put it down to? Going, there's something out there singing that's alluring me to my death, you know?
yeah, I've been on a deployment um on ship and maybe because it could be so isolating and stuff, maybe I don't know because like sometimes you hear things like in the water and it's you misheard it because of
Hmm.
sound bouncing off of the water itself or something splash. I don't know. But if I heard like music or singing, I would question my sanity if I didn't see
Like,
something in the water, you know, seeing themselves. But then if I did see something in the water singing themselves, then I would also question my sanity. So,
All right, so here's a hypothetical. Say you're a sailor in like a big wooden ship. It's pitch black, and you can hear things out in the water, and then all of a sudden you hear a strange vibration that vibrates your body. Like, what if there's a pod of humpback whales out there singing? And like from what I've heard, it's that loud. It will actually vibrate the crap out of your body because of just how powerful it actually is. Like, you've got to wonder how much of nature's biology has fed into the darkness.
you know what? I will say that's very true. When my kids were doing equine therapy, the therapist, which is horse there, which is like horse riding,
Yep.
meets like talk therapy, um, and breath control and different things like that. But she was saying that the reason why this type of therapy is so effective with like a lot of, anxiety disorders and other things is because the horse's heartbeat can be felt from up to like 2 miles away, and it kind of like regulates you, like gets you on a better calming rhythm, you know? Um yeah, there's some science behind that. And also if you're like really nervous, the horse will not move because it's freaked out from you. So it's like a really good like self-awareness thing too, of like how stressed you are, how anxious you are. Um yeah. So you're right. Maybe there is well, there has to be. Can you imagine like, because vibrations like, affect us all, like energy and yeah,
Yeah,
maybe you're
and
right.
it's as you said, we've only explored like not that much of the world's ocean. We don't know what's down there, so there still could be yet unknown bigger animals down there. Like from some of the stuff that I've read, like they're saying there's like other big creatures down there as big as whales that are not yet recorded, or well, technically they are, but they're not going to release it because um, the Navy is too shit scared to release it because of what it can do.
Well, what would be the difference? Like, what, you're not going to go scuba diving 20,000 miles down into the sea? I mean, we can't do that anyway. Like, if
No,
we,
because apparently what this one creature in particular that it's it's not it's almost the size of a whale, but it's got humanoid features and is said to be somewhat intelligent.
mm,
And they don't like going near it. I know that also comes under cryptid, but there's not much about that particular one that I've ever read about, and whenever I get to see stories of it, I like really like read up on it because it's it's sort of like some of the alien things where they only give you that tantalizing snapshot glimpse of, and that's all they'll give you, and it's like, but the rest of us want to know more because I think inherently all of us are afraid of what's like down in the dark because we don't know. We do have that inherent fear. Um, and it'd be interesting. It's just like they were saying for a long time that the bloop was a creature, um, but it turns out it was nothing more than nature playing a prank on us and cracking one of the ice sheets. That
mm.
mm, yeah. And like if I remember correctly, there are stories of like there is like rubber seals on some of the coning towers for submarines and that. They were saying like sometimes when they're down low, um, things will come up and attack the subs, and it's almost like a cookie cutter shark has bitten into like the where the rubber and all that is.
Uh-huh.
It's like really interesting. Personally, I think it probably is just a cookie cutter shark because those things are indiscriminate a-holes with the way they just attack things by the look of it. Like,
What?
have you ever a cookie cutter shark will virtually leave a perfect circle bite mark in things.
That's a type of shark. Like it's
Yeah, it's a real life phenomenon. Um, it's just interesting. That's all.
oh, I've never heard of that type of shark before. But I would
Hmm.
think if it's a submarine, wouldn't they be like cameras? Or maybe I guess there's not cameras around it.
Um, this was done like back in the 60s and 70s before
Oh,
even
yeah.
they would have even had the cameras and that. That's why I said the information on that is very scarce. Like you hear like a story in like one book and then it's never repeated again.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I'm pretty sure if I went and did a deep dive, I could probably find the story again. But yeah, I'm just not sure how to do that.
I
Yeah,
mean, still,
I'm not a
it's
mummy sleuth.
a mom. You're not a mommy sleuth.
Nope.
Um, but I would think even if there was existence of like something intelligent in the water, like a mermaid or a whatever, how would that affect human society? I don't think it would, you know? I mean, well, I guess if like 10,000 people went to go look for it, but like,
Um, no, I think they'd be smart enough to keep away from the apes that destroy themselves. Um, yeah, I think that I think it'd be like some of the other cryptids that are smart enough to try and avoid interacting with humanity as a whole.
yeah, like Bigfoot in Michigan.
Hmm. Yeah, that'll be interesting to see what'll happen when they come up with the when they do the DNA of the fur. That's what I'd be interested in.
Yeah.
I just hope they don't like once it turns out to be something standard. I just hope they just don't bury it like they've done with other reports where it's like, oh yes, we found this and it's this, and then when they go to release it, it's like, yeah, it's quiet, you know.
Yeah, that article was published in October 2025, and I don't know how long DNA results take, but I would think with modern technology, I don't think it would take like 3 months.
Um, it would depend on how like what the backlog is, where they sent it, and who's doing it. And like I know the genetic like genealogy of like that kind of thing is getting a hell of a lot better because I mean look at all the cold cases that they're now solving. So I just hope realistically that they hurry up and release it.
Yeah.
So I remember a story that they this was what early 2000s, maybe late 90s. Someone said they had also found Bigfoot tracks. They collected fur, but it turned out to be like a bear with mange.
Oh, I didn't know that they had results to that story. I thought that was like buried, but yeah, that
No,
would be
that one was like a bear with mange. Apparently, it was like a sun bear with mange or something. Because
oh,
that's the one that tends to walk around on 2 feet more than the others do.
oh, okay, that makes why they called it a bear initially and then it wasn't.
Yeah, Raph would probably know better than I did because they did put that comment up about the bear with mange.
Yeah. I don't know. Well, would you I guess you wouldn't say that on like thermal imaging, would you? Because the photos online look like a gorilla walking. So I guess you wouldn't even be able to tell if it had mange or not. I'm guessing.
Mange is basically like a lack of hair. So it would look like skin more than anything else. You'd probably have patches of hair here and there, but it depends on how badly it's been inflicted too.
Yeah, so you wouldn't see that. Huh.
No, and
Yeah,
plus as I said, in the Huron Mountains, you've got dogmen as well. So it might not even be like a Bigfoot. It could be like a dogman or something instead.
mm.
Yeah, cause apparently by the look of it, the Huron Mountain is a bit like that Shasta Peak and all that. It's got a few stories attached to it.
Oh.
Because as soon as you mentioned it, I went and double looked because that did pop up in my head. Like, the stories of this particular mountain.
Maybe it's a hoax.
Well, in this day and age, you've got to be pretty bloody good to pull off a decent hoax that can pull everybody in.
Yeah, true.
And like realistically, I don't see people going out of their way for a hoax for that kind of thing.
Well, maybe to draw like more tourism or something.
Maybe, but the fact that the park is being cut off to only the scientific type at the moment
Yeah.
says otherwise.
Yeah, and they if it really was a tourist attraction, they wouldn't close anything. They'd leave everything open.
Hmm.
Well, I would think. Yeah. No, I'll have to keep an eye out for that. I was going through this list of like cryptids, and a lot of these could be like confused for like normal animals, but like what you said might have mange or maybe a deformity or something. Um,
Yeah.
like there's this, I'm gonna butcher this, Debar Chew, a waterhound or a king otter, and it looks like it's supposedly an extra large otter-like carnivorous aquatic mammal. It looks like a giant otter with
Where
like
where
overgrown.
where where in
I'm
the world is it though?
Ireland.
See, that's from Ireland's got a lot of things like the hag, the selkie. And the selkie is another water horse type. Well, the selkie is technically a water horse, but it's it's half horse, half mermaid type thing. And yeah, but Ireland's got all the good ones.
What else does Ireland have? Let me see. They have Loch Ness is Scotland. Whoops.
Well, the one of the Loch Ness photos has now been proven fake. Oh, sorry, the video, the very first one that popped up,
Mm-hmm.
that was apparently a toy submarine with the shape of the Loch Ness attached to it.
What? That's
Yeah,
messed.
that one from like the 1960s or whatever. Yeah, that was. They actually turned around before they died and admitted it was fake.
Oh man.
I know, bummer, right?
Yeah.
That's that fairies one that I was saying about earlier. Like for quite a few years, I believed that to be true, and then yeah, it's also fake.
Let's see.
Like I got a good one from, I think it's Victoria. It's called the Hook Island Monster. It's a 50-50 split on whether it's real or fake.
Oh, let's hear about it.
I'll bring it up. Uh, where is the Hook Island Monster? Okay, so the Hook Island Sea Monster. If you Google it, it looks like a giant tadpole in the water. Um, is a name given to a 90-foot sea monster sighted off the coast of Hook Island. It resembles a giant black tadpole and has a gaping mouth with small teeth and eyes placed on top of its head. It resembles the yellow belly sea monster other than the obvious color difference. The monster was sighted by Robert Lee Sirac and his family in 1964 when it moved towards his ship with its mouth open as if to attack. He spotted its tail was injured, probably by a ship's propeller or other large creature. He described that it was only when it got within 20 feet of the serpent that he could see its head clearly. The head was large, from about 4 feet from top to bottom, with jaws about 4 feet wide. The lower jaw was flat like that of a sandfish. The skin was smooth but rather dull brownish black in color, and the eyes seemed pale green, almost white. The skin looked more like that of a shark than an eel. There were no apparent scales, nor did we see any parasites around. We supposed the flexible tail would have shaken any off. There were no fins or spines, nor were there any apparent breathing openings, although there must have been some. Perhaps we didn't see them because our attention was focused mainly on the creature's menacing mouth, the inside of which was whitish. The teeth appeared to be small. A fragment of some dark substance hung from the upper row of teeth, possibly a fish. As the monster was lying on the sandy bottom, we could not see the color of its belly. The creature was about 90 feet long. Behind the head of the body was about 2 feet 4 inches thick and remained that way for about 25 feet, and then gradually tapered into a whip-like tail. The general color of the body was black, with 1 foot wide brownish marking rings every 5 feet, that first started just behind the head. The skin was smooth but dull. Just as it seemed it would swallow the ship, it swam away. The Siroc managed to take a few shots before it swam away and was never seen again. Now, unlike most cryptids, the evidence that this is fake and that it's real is equally balanced out. Some say it was Photoshop, but that wasn't invented back then. Others say that it was a large sheet of plastic weighed down by sand. The evidence that it was real, that it looked very lifelike. Some shots close up showed the eyes looked too detailed to be modelled out of plastic. In their book, Field Guide to Lake Monsters, Sea Serpents and Other Mysteries and Denizens of the Deep, by Lauren Coleman and Patrick Hugh, state the case was a hoax. Either way, many people are reluctant to swim in the waters of Hook Island, fearing this creature may exist.
Would you risk it?
Like, go for a swim there? Hell yeah, the water looks nice.
I don't know if I. I don't know. I would have to think about it. But I get scared swimming in rivers and lakes anyways because when fish touch me, I freak out.
I only get annoyed when I'm swimming when it's blue bottles and that sting you.
Where? Oh, that's the octopus.
No, blue bottles are floating bags of blue air that have stingers attached to them. They're like jellyfish in that respect.
Oh.
Mm.
Well, now I have a new fear of jellyfish.
Yeah, the blue bottles aren't, well, they're bad, but it's the Candies that are worse.
You have a
Now,
lot
because you,
of
yep,
animals over there.
yeah, we have a lot of bitey animals over here. I mean, like, look at our snake list. We've got, like, what is it, top 7 out of the top 10 in the world, or whatever it is.
Yeah, I don't do poisonous things.
I'm not even gonna touch that.
Goat Man.
Are we talking about the Goat Man of Popelik Bridge?
Goat Man of New Jersey. Is he New Jersey?
I've heard of that, but there's also a Goat Man of Popelik Bridge, which is said to kill people
Ooh,
because
yeah.
sadly this one is real. But the problem with Goat Lake Bridge is like it's a train line, and unfortunately people tend to like want to walk across it. It's like almost a hypnotic need to walk across it. And the problem is by the time they get about halfway through, there's usually a train barreling down on them. They either have to get struck by a train or try and jump off the edge to save themselves, and it's not very nice.
Oh, well, that's why the bridge is haunted.
Yeah, that one. That chapter podcast has done a story on it. I think Simon Whistle's done a story on it too.
Do you have that story pulled up of Goat Man
Uh,
or the bridge?
no, I don't. I don't actually have the Pokeless Bridge one pulled up. I actually have Australia's Sasquatch pulled up
Ooh,
because I know
that's
you did ask me about that one.
yeah.
So okay, so the Australian version of the Sasquatch or Bigfoot is known as the Yowie. Now, funnily enough, we also have some chocolates here that are like the Kinder Surprise that unfortunately you Americans can't get because apparently you can't get chocolate with items in the middle of it because apparently you're dumb enough to try and eat the things inside the chocolate even though they're plastic for some
Yeah.
reason. which
Yes.
is which is freaking I find beyond stupid. But anyway, it's still that particular thing still makes me crack up. So the Yowie is also known as the Yahoo, Yori, Hairy Man, or Yahoo. It's also known as a Yahoo. I'm surprised Yahoo hasn't tried to copyright the name and go up against that. So, well, then I mean they're litigious with everyone else. So so and that would be a lawsuit I would absolutely kill to watch. Yahoo versus a mythological Australian creature.
That would be hilarious.
That would be shits and giggles all the way through for everyone.
I mean, that would be really good publicity for Yahoo.
Oh, well, even if it's just one of those ones where they're only doing it just for the publicity, it would be pretty funny just to see what would happen. Because
Hmm.
I really think Yahoo needs to pull their finger out of their butt and take some of the dominance of Google off, away. And Yahoo's the only one likely enough to do it.
Yeah.
So anyway, the Yowie is a fanged humanoid marsupial or great ape, featured in the Australian Aboriginal mythology along with the Australian raptors, bunyips, and barrenjoey. I don't know what the barrenjoey is, but I do want to look into that one. The Yowie is considered to be the Australian Bigfoot and contain many primate-like features, possibly indicating that it's an undiscovered species of great ape and possible relative of the Gigantopithecus or prehistoric humans. Now, did I not say that back when you and Kinney were covering that?
Hmm.
The Yowie is described as being one of the most aggressive Sasquatch species and has been reported tearing the heads of kangaroos and dogs. It has also been seen attacking humans as well, however, that is rare. The Yowie is described to be around 5 to 9 feet tall with a large red mouth and talon-like claws according to the Aboriginal legends. It is also noted that the Yowie contains two large fang-like canines which distinguish the Yowie from the other Bigfoot species and is usually brown or reddish fur. Like most of the Bigfoot species, it is serious that the Yowie descended from an ancient ape called Gigantopithecus blacki. While the Giganto-Bigfoot theory may be valid, it is highly unlikely that the Yowie descended from the same Asian ape, as creatures from Asia never made it to Australia due to the sea depth and vice versa. Creatures from Australia never made it to Asia. This separation is marked by the Wallace Line. Another theory is that there may be a living Homo erectus, the presence of which prehistoric Australia is suspected but not proven, or a particularly primitive tribe. There are 140 placental mammals known to exist in Australia, most belonging to the order of Trichoptera, which is the bats, and Rodentia rodents. Some cryptozoologists theorize that the Yowie could be some sort of bipedal marsupial, such as descended from the New Guinean Hylotherium, due to the fact that no primates native, evolution-wise, to the Australian fossil record. Most recent sightings were reported. Shut up, Siri. Um, Sorry, Siri just went off at me. The most recent sightings were reported in early 2021. Three sightings of Yarra creature reported in 2021, with at least 6 sightings in 2020, all reported in the state of Queensland. And yeah, that's all it really has on it. But come on, there should be more about their sightings. Damn it.
I don't know about the theory about a marsupial. Because
I
like
don't know. Well, you
they
look at the kangaroo and wallabies and all that; they're all marsupials.
oh that's true. But like how well maybe it could like a worldwide marsupial bipedal marsupial.
Do you know what's funny? I actually read one of those things like that said that humans are still evolving. I mean, all creatures are. Um, they said in the end, women will probably end up with their own marsupial style pouch. I just started laughing at that one.
No, that no.
Yeah.
No.
Also, in the same article, it claims that toes in particular are gonna like become like one big block, and I'm like, yeah, that's not gonna happen. Just yeah.
Yeah, I'm not
Mm,
it's evolution right now.
mm,
I mean, AI is kind of rushing it, with giving us six fingers.
yep.
Um, maybe, I mean, I don't know, maybe Bigfoot is a dinosaur because he's all over the world.
Mm.
Like
But
maybe
but it is true about the Wallace line. Nothing crosses from the northern hemisphere to the southern hemisphere via the Wallace line. There is a clear and distinct separation of species. So unless it followed the same land bridges that primitive humans did to get here, um, which is highly possible. But yeah, I don't know.
well because like what? There's Yeti, there's one in Asia, he's all over. I can't imagine. I mean, the only thing that would make him worldwide he would have to have like some sort of connection to the original, what is it, Pangea, or yeah, the original landmass.
Yeah, Pangea.
And then maybe they were all over that landmass and then it broke apart and then they all had to adapt. And now he's like this, you know, dinosaur or ancient being that has somehow lasted the test of time. Um, and now that we have more surveillance, we caught him. Because I just don't know why. Like, okay, like the United States has multiple different cryptids, right?
Yep.
England, Australia, they're all different. But the only one that ties the whole world together as far as like cryptid and having the same creature is essentially this bipedal Bigfoot or Yeti or Yucca Man or Yahoo or whatever.
I
Other than
I'm wondering if I'm wondering if that actually comes down to our shared humanity. It's one of those things that gets passed around, but it's a shared subconscious thing too.
true.
Well, do the Native Americans? I haven't heard a story from the Native. Well, maybe I'm sure the Native Americans have a story about Bigfoot too. Maybe maybe it was a big giant creature at one point and existed, and then it just got passed down.
Yeah,
You know,
like
like
I'm pretty sure there are stories of creatures that were running around in the past that we've told stories about, and it just evolved over time.
yeah,
Mm.
like someone
I but
being.
by the way, I
Huh,
just found a story of a demon. Ooh.
oh, what is it? We have to. Wait, is the demon a cryptid?
Yep, yep, and it's an Australian cryptid.
Ooh, okay, go ahead.
It kind of looks like a red toad thing with like the spike style hair thing. The yeah. So the ya, Yahoo is a blood-sucking creature from the Aboriginal folklore that lurks deep in the treetop or lurks in the treetops until a person walks under it. Then it would leap from the tree under the person, suck almost all of its blood, and swallow them whole. After sucking up the poor soul, it would regurgitate the person up, take a drink of water, and nap, and then wake up to puke the person out over and over. As it does this, he/she will become shorter and redder each time until they themselves become a Yarama Yarahu. Uh, Um, it resembles a little red frog-like man or woman about 4 feet tall with red hair and skin. It has an enlarged mouth with no teeth. It has suckers on the tips of its fingers that it uses to suck the blood out of its victims, which are usually people. It can also unhinge its jaw like that of a snake. The method of its attack is clever and scores its unlikely humans. It drops from the trees, usually fig trees, onto a person, then grabs the human by the arms and uses the suckers on its fingers to suck up the blood before running away. It later returns to eat the victim whole and then vomits it out for an easy meal the next time. Eventually, after Yarama Yarahu has stopped this revolting process, the victim will have turned into one of the creatures itself. It
It's a
is
parasite.
it, it could be an unknown variety of tarsier, a primate from the Southeast Asia, with fingers that have the appearance of resembling suction cups. There are some problems with that theory, as tarsiers are relatively harmless and far smaller than the Yarama Yahoo, who also do not live in Australia as far as we know. But the problem with that is creatures in Australia have been on an evolutionary arms race with themselves for millennia now, which is why our creatures are some of the most freaking um, venomous, poisonous, whatever on the planet. Could it be possible that a cryptid could also change in that time too? Like, what did you say? It's like a tarsier. Let's see what a tarsier looks like.
Well, there is that
Uh,
worm thingy. Where is it? In
so
Asia, giant.
yeah, so the tarsier is like a little monkey primate.
Oh,
But it's kind of funny though with this one, how it jumps from trees down and attacks the victim from trees. Yet the drop bear does the exact same thing. So I'm wondering if that's one cryptid has helped spawn another.
oh, like maybe they're one and the same, or
Well, the drop bear will just bite you and attack you and leave you for dead. But this one keeps regurgitating and like making you smaller and smaller until you become one of them.
so it's
Whereas,
like a parasite. Like it feeds
yeah,
off you, and you're its host, and then you're basically
well,
become.
the fact that it keeps coming back to you is kind of disgusting.
Well, yeah, but like
maybe that's part of its life cycle. Like maybe, and this is a far stretch into like a really weird rabbit hole, but like, what if it like it's obviously like feeding off of you and it's also giving you something, so maybe it's like part of its like life cycle.
What
Like,
would have to be give? Well, it would have to be giving you something in order to turn you into it.
yeah. Oh, that's creepy. That's like worse. It's like being a zombie. It's
Yeah,
not
I
good.
never heard of that one before. So yeah, that's a new one for me.
Oh my goodness.
I, I'm looking at all these dinosaur style ones and like lizard style ones. They're pretty good, but yeah. Um,
Let's see. Like the Jersey Devil and the Mothman could be similar to like a pterodactyl. Oh, and
um,
bird.
no, the Thunderbird would be more pterodactyl like. The Jersey Devil is meant to be part goat, part bat, part something else. The
Oh, okay.
Mothman, the Mothman is uh, like a humanoid with giant wings that's black with glowing red eyes. They think it might be a sandhill crane stalk thingy because that accounts for the red eyes, the huge wingspan, and the height. Um, as for the Jersey Devil, um, if I remember correctly, that was born of a woman. I don't know. I think it was the seventh child after she dallied with the devil beforehand or something, and that's where when she gave birth, the kid started to transform and then eventually escaped into the New Jersey wild. Uh, as I said, the chupacabra is meant to be come from a creature with mange. I think it's a creature with mange that started attacking things. That's where the chupacabra came from. But as for the others, yeah.
Oh, okay. I have Jersey Devil, Origin of Legend, Mother leads 13th child.
Oh,
Um,
so 13.7. Okay.
the popular legend of the Jersey Devil or Leeds Devil is dated variously and is almost invariably attached to the Pines or the South Jersey Pine Barrens, and sometimes specifically Leeds Point within the Pine Barrens. The Devil's mother is usually a woman named Leeds or Mother Leeds of Burlington, but other names such as the Shrewds have occasionally been forwarded. Or according to one, was it Prices? In 1735, a woman named Leeds had 12 children, and after discovering she was pregnant for the 13th time, cursed the child in frustration, declaring, "Let the child be the devil." The child, though born normally, immediately grew wings, a tail, and claws after birth and flew out to the Pine Barrens. According to some, the child transformed into a creature with hooves, a goat's head, bat wings, and forked tail. Growing and screaming, the child beat everyone with its tail before flying up the chimney and heading into the pines. In some versions of the tale, Mother Leeds was supposedly a witch, and the child's father was the devil himself. Some versions of the legend also state that the local clergyman subsequently attempted to exorcise the creature from the Pine Barrens. In a different telling, localized not a not sorry.
In different telling, localized not at Leeds Point, but at Estiville near Mays Landing, a Mrs. Leeds became pregnant around 1855 and rejected her baby, wishing a stork would deliver a devil. Thus, a winged devil was born and flew out the window. It would intermittently return, but the mother would shoo it away. Well, that's a story.
Glad to see I still got some of that story down correctly. um, yeah.
Oh, here we go. A wave of sightings in 1909. During the week of January 16 to 23, 1909, newspapers published hundreds of claimed encounters with the Jersey Devil from all over South Jersey and the Philadelphia area. Among these encounters were claims the creature attacked a trolley car in Hayden Heights and a social club in Camden. Police in Camden and Bristol, Pennsylvania, supposedly fired on the creature to no effect. Other reports initially concerned unidentified footprints in the snow, but soon sightings of the creatures resembling the Jersey Devil were being reported throughout South Jersey and far away as Delaware and western Maryland. The widespread newspaper coverage created fear through the Delaware Valley, prompting a number of schools to close and workers to stay home. Vigilante groups and groups of hunters roamed the pines and countrysides in search of the devil. During this period, it is rumored that the Philadelphia Zoo posted a $10,000 reward for the creature. The offer prompted a variety of hoaxes, including a kangaroo equipped with artificial claws and bat wings.
Hold on. Why would a kangaroo need artificial claws when they've already got inbuilt freaking claws?
I didn't say anybody was rational in this story.
Ooh.
I think that's the
I,
plot they weren't considering. But
I, I
that's
just found the I just found the English version of the Sasquatch. That'll be next.
see, I'm telling you, it has to be a an ancient like dinosaur.
I
I
don't know. I'm looking at the picture of this, and I'm thinking uh some sort of pre-human.
could be maybe that's what it is. Wouldn't that be crazy?
Well, maybe like they think with a lot of how humans came to be is because basically we screwed ourselves to the top. We interbred with all the other humans and basically outdid them, taking all the good genes with them, and yeah, which is why even today, like some people still show Neanderthal genes in the way they look. They look more Neanderthalic, and yet some, you know, what do they call it? The star race or something. They're unsure of where the DNA actually came from.
Oh,
You know,
interesting.
which wouldn't surprise me because um, that's been the human race's thing to survive.
Well, isn't that
If
like
if
then?
yeah yeah if we can't eat it or fuck it, then we're not really that interested in it.
Sad but true.
Mm. Yeah, I've been told off. I remember being told off by a school teacher for saying that. I'm like, but that's the history of the world. If we can't beat each other to death, take each other's land, or if we can't procreate with it, then then what's the whole point of us continuing?
Truth.
I mean, that's why you've got the outlier, kinkier people that will basically, you know, do it with anything that has a heartbeat, and even there's a few that do it without heartbeats too. But we're not touching that subject. Well, yes, we are after dark. That's should be after dark, like and then like after dark on top of that. Okay, so the English version of the Sasquatch is called the Woodwose. It was cited um before and after European. Oh no, this might be American actually. Um, Even though I did look at it from England. So, the European colonization of America. The legends and modern sightings are very similar to that of the Sasquatch in North America, the Macangari in South America, the Alamos in Russia, and the Yowie in Australia, and many others. Most of the time, the Sasquatch and other creatures, other types of Bigfoot, are described as something called a sagittal crest, a crest on the skull which gives gorillas the extinct apes a cone-shaped head. Gorillas are the only known living ape known to have these. In the UK, the creatures such as the woodwose, Philiathmore, Gruagach, and other Bigfoot-like creatures tend to be described as more human-like, with a human-shaped head, a flat, wide nose, and protruding brow ridge, a mouth that sticks out slightly like a chimpanzee's, but not as extreme, being an average and normally maximum 8 foot tall, though they are commonly reported to be only 6 or 7 feet tall and also covered in hair. The color of hair is normally the only thing that is inconsistent in sighting other than height. Similar to other creatures like Bigfoot-like creatures, they tend to be colored in light brown or orange-red, like an orangutan, or black or brown and black, black being like gorilla, and even on occasions white, which would be the Yetis and or could that technically be a form of albinism because all creatures carry the gene for albinism, with the white beard thing for albinism? But I still find it interesting that most of these Bigfoot creatures all have the red hair, which is what the Gigantopithecus is said to have had. Um,
Mm.
in 1982, UK Bigfoot researcher Deborah Hatswell claimed she saw a woodwose in Salford, Lancashire, England, when she was 15 years old. She said she went to a park in an urban area every day as a child until one day near the thick, overgrown area in Buell Park, after her and her friends skipped school without their parents, they claimed they saw a woodwose. Deborah noticed movement in the corner of her eye before suddenly what she and a friend called a monster man-ape and gorilla man at the time jumped out of the bushes. After seeing this tall creature, she screamed and ran as fast as she could, pushing her friend to the ground um, all the way home. She says she is ashamed of that. Hey, that's the fight or flight thing, in it. So basically, if you're getting chased by a predatory, something that's predatory and chasing you, knock your best friend over, so you've got a bigger chance of survival. Correct?
That's kind of messed up, but that's probably what happens in real life.
Yeah. I know. I know. There's a story, a joke there of two guys being hunted by lions in Africa, and one guy goes, "So why are you putting on your shoes?" He goes, "Because I've just got to outrun you." You know. Um,
It's
she looked
true.
back at yeah. She looked back after pushing her friend, only to see the creature simply lean back into the greenery. Thinking about the expression on the creature's face, she recalls it was actually very confused and not aggressive like she expected. She believes that the creature was just as confused as her and that she was the one in the wrong place at the wrong time, as she described in her YouTube video recalling the encounter. Okay, so that's actually interesting. The fact that she's made a YouTube video of it. Um, she claims she can still see the creature in her mind very clearly after 40 years, and that it had amber-colored eyes. Its teeth were like those of a human but more square. She distinctly said it had hair all over its body as opposed to fur, despite the fact that they are the same thing. It is possible that she means it had human or primate-like fur, and that she could see the skin through the fur, though it was still rather thick. She says its hair was very dark brown and that the sun shone through the hair so she could see the skin. Even being a researcher and someone interested in the subject, she says that, as most witnesses say, the encounter still ruined her life for a very long time, with her only recovering relatively recently. She said she was a reclusive and refused to talk about the encounter until she was in her 30s, when her husband convinced her to become a researcher and to find out if anyone else had seen the creature. She went on to describe how she considers the creature to be simply misunderstood and describes the woodrose she saw as being like a brother or cousin, and that she sympathizes with the creature. The picture in the info box shows the reconstruction of the creature. In 1984, a woman who the Crypto Crew website identified only as Brenda claimed she saw a similar creature and was inspired to tell her story after reading another article from the website describing Deborah Hatchwell's encounter. Deborah, who was 30 at the time, says she was walking her dogs in Buell Park at 5 p.m. The park was normally closed at this time of year and day as it had already gotten dark and it was freezing cold. She was smoking a cigarette and suddenly some movement to her left caught her eye and, and nearby light illuminated a 6 foot tall, podgy figure standing before her. What sparked her attention was that the creature had bare feet, and she noticed it had no clothing but was covered in hair all over its body. She went on to say that she thought someone was playing silly buggers. She then realized something strange was going on since it stood there. She became worried it would attack her. That they stared at each other for all of 20 seconds before it quickly ran back into the trees. She ran home and told her boyfriend and her brother, but was scoffed at, and that it was just a local perv trying to pick up a prostitute. She says she will never forget her encounter and that she didn't know anything about Bigfoot at the time, but she thinks it must have been what she saw. She says she looked like a chimp, but was too tall and too human-like. It looked like a caveman from the dinosaur days. It is worth noting that Homo sapiens are the only humans that reach 6 foot tall, except for Meganthropus, who may also be Australopithecine. So that so-called cavemen did not live during the Mesozoic, but says it had piggy-type nose and large black eyes due to it probably being nocturnal. As for the nose, Neanderthals had wider noses to help with the cold, so the creature possibly being most likely nocturnal may have had the wider piggy nose to deal with the cold also. He says its face was a cross between a human's and a chimp's. Uh, yeah, and apparently the sightings of the wood roasters are almost as common as Sasquatch sighting now. Bigfoot sightings outside the US have become increasingly in popularity with the Almas and the Yowie, and to a lesser extent there are sightings of woodrush in Ireland too. Uh, in Wales and the UK, Northern has the least amount of woodrush sightings. Some possible woodrush sightings are reported as werewolves. That
Oh,
is that that is interesting, but we have covered before that some cryptids could be mistaken for others and vice versa. So, um,
yeah. I've
as I said, it
heard.
could be like a dogman or it could be a Sasquatch. It could be thing. In 2013, a camper just outside Dolgellau in northern Wales claimed that she started feeling like she was being watched when they were near the river. She claimed she couldn't shake the feeling throughout the entire day, and at about 4 in the morning she woke up to what I could only describe as a mournful howling. She says she's never heard anything like it before, and that she and her family live in the countryside to know what normal wildlife sounds like. She says that she would have investigated further, but she had a son with her and that he was much too young to be left alone. She says it howled twice for about 5 seconds, and then she heard another one that sounded far away. Further north in Plastolwymoch came another sighting from 1966. It would have been about April, May 1966. Not too cold, but not quite summer. I was 13, the report says. It was my school's turn for the third years to have the Plastolwymoch Outward Bound Centre for a week. It had been gifted to the Coventry Council by an old widow for disadvantaged kids to allow them to experience the wild of the countryside and still functioning to this day. We would go canoeing, rock climbing, abseiling, and all that stuff. It was great. Also, we would talk orienteering, finding our way through the dark through the woods using a map and compass. So on this night, we were paired up and given instructions on how to use them to navigate to the woods at the back of the centre. which was a huge manor house affair. Me and my mate were the first to set up through the woods. It didn't take long to get through, maybe half an hour. So when we came to a path that leads back to the centre down a steep slope, this is when something very big came crashing through the trees and bushes to our right. Me and my mate just stopped dead and still looked at it. It was sort of roaring, as I remember. It was this huge black shadow, and it was fast. But you could tell it was thick and bulky. We just dropped our own maps and stuff and ran like hell back to the centre and aroused all the staff to what had just happened. The funny thing, they believed us straight away and called the police. Not once did they show any doubts of what we were telling them, as my mate described a giant ape. Police questioned us very sympathetically and organised the search. I don't know what happened to all the kids about to follow us through the woods. In fact, we never really talked about it. Strange as it seems, I and my mate back then had never heard of Bigfoot or any other such things, but I did have a deep interest in UFOs. As I stood underneath a large golden one when I was about 8 or 9. The previous day, we were all taken to the local church to see a giant handprint left in a rock said to have been thrown at the congregation as they left Sunday Mass. We all took turns putting our hand into the huge print to gauge the size. As I remember, it was pretty big, and this place took years for me to find the name of the village. And the church is called Mantarog and Trog Stone. Why have I heard that name Mantarog before? I think it was in science fiction,
Science
maybe even
fiction.
Marvel. Yeah, Mantarog. It's from something. Yeah, they believe it's likely a member of forest apes. Usually very rare and very stealthy.
Hmm.
Hmm. Huh. Apparently, wood roses are a special J.R.R. Tolkien middle, are a species in J.R.R. Tolkien's Middle Earth. And they gave them the name the Druidane and helped the forces of good in fighting the Dark Lord Sauron. They first appear in the third book, The Return of the King.
Oh, that's
That
interesting.
was, yeah, I wouldn't have thought J.R.R. Tolkien, like, I know he borrowed bits and pieces from everywhere, but damn.
Huh, that's really interesting. I'm still stuck on the werewolf being related to Bigfoot.
Yeah, that one's a bit of a head scratcher.
I have a lot of questions about that. Yeah, but I have, yeah, let's see. Speaking of questions, let me see if there's like any more news articles about that Bigfoot thing. Mm,
Oh, and speaking of Mothman, apparently there's a giant black bird seen before that too.
oh, the Mothman. I thought the Mothman was confused as a bird.
Yeah, that's why I said the sandhill stalk crane. But let me get rid of this ad. But they're saying that there's a blackbird of Chernobyl was a Mothman-like creature allegedly sighted before the Chernobyl meltdown and during the rescue of the Chernobyl workers. Um, yeah, it doesn't really say much. It's saying it had like a 20-foot wingspan of red glowing eyes. Um, yeah, apparently everyone who saw the creature has now died. And so some are saying that the big black bird could technically be Mothman.
Ugh, I don't like that they passed. Like now I'm like, did the bird do something? Um, no, looks like there's no results on the possible Bigfoot in Michigan. Um, it just says that it's an official sighting. Confirmed, an official confirmed sighting.
Uh,
Yeah, but nothing, no follow-up.
Wait, I'm just running through this. So that creature that lives on the moors is the beast of the Bodmin Moors. That's the other giant cats that I was talking about. Okay, I gotta look at this one. Apparently, there's a cryptid called Crabzilla. It supposedly lives on the banks of the Candy County Harbour, in a place that made up doesn't even exist in England. Really, Crabzilla? God damn it!
I mean, I got really hungry and hopeful for a second. Sounds like giant lobsters. Like,
Mm.
I don't know why I thought of that, but I'm like, ooh, that sounds good. I'm okay with that. Um,
Ooh, apparently there's a thing called a rock nest monster.
oh, wait a minute.
Ooh,
Is,
that's a globster. I wonder.
oh, please don't tell me I have to pay for a subscription. I don't know what any of this means. Activated.
Ooh, there's another cat. Would be the beast of Exmoor, which is also, you know.
Bless you.
Thank you.
I don't know what
Yeah.
there's some sort of, maybe that's not the right article. That's disappointing. Yeah, there's nothing about results, nothing. Maybe they buried it and we're always supposed to forget that it happened. I don't know. Because it mentions everything else except these DNA results.
Yeah, you'd think there would be results from that by now.
Yeah, like it doesn't even, there's like nothing that closely refers to anything. Uh, Michigan Dog Man. That's as close as we get. Yeah, there's like, they made an article about it that they called it an official sighting, and then there's nothing. There's no follow-up, there's no test results. There's like no one ever mentioned it. Nothing about Bigfoot people talking about it. Nothing. I mean, there's like one article about deer having COVID. That's it.
Wait, deer can get bloody COVID? What the heck?
Yeah, when there was the COVID outbreak, a lot of zoo animals and what every living thing basically got COVID.
Like I know some creatures are like I know a lot of deer in America get that brain thing that turn them into zombies, but you've also got deer and now sorry rabbits are now getting something that grows out of their heads.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I
Yeah,
remember.
that kind of worries me.
Mother Nature is a big giant beast, and yeah, I don't know what her plans are for us, but I don't muck with that. um yeah, no, Mother Nature is control of like small tiny little things that can like take us out in seconds. Yeah.
That's why I would be very, very worried if the cordyceps plant ever gets to the point where it starts infecting humans.
The what?
Cordyceps. It's a plant that turns ants and stuff into zombies.
Oh, yeah, have you seen that? Oh god. It was like I think it's a sci-fi movie with Mark Wahlberg, and like the plants turn like poisonous. Is it the plants?
Uh, no, I haven't watched many of Mark Wahlberg stuff because he's a dick.
Well, that may be true too. But yeah, there's some sci-fi movie out there where like the nature turns against us and like they start producing like poisons and whatnot. Um,
I think it's been done in a few different places. So yeah,
but like yeah, I don't muck with mother do whatever she wants.
it'll in the end it'll be Mother Nature that kills all of us anyway. Like we'll do something to piss Mother Nature off, then Mother Nature will come back and just go, "Yeah, I've had enough of you."
Uh, yeah, that's why they're super bugs. The antibiotics can't treat. That'll be the answer.
Well, the whole thing with those superbugs, that's all our fault for like overdosing on so much of the medication that they just become resistant. Like they've known about that for years, and they should have been more circumspect with the way they give stuff out. But no, they just say, "Yeah, no worries, we'll just keep going until it becomes useless, then make a new drug that we can charge even more for."
Yeah, but I don't think we knew that when the drugs first came out. Or maybe I'm sure we did, but like 20 years later, because that's how long it takes for drugs to trickle down to practice. So we probably knew about it and it took us 20 years to be like, oh, we should probably change course. And then like
Yeah,
another years to implement that.
but the sad thing is, no one's got the balls to turn around and do it and just go, "No, we need to stop doing this, otherwise." Yeah, like I think all the medical fields right across the planet need to be overhauled.
I do not disagree. But um even if we overhaul it, I think we still have some really good developments because I'm afraid to go backwards because medieval medical times were kind of horrific. Yeah, I can't.
See that's one thing I hope we. This may sound savage as hell. I really want one of those old diseases to come back and just go absolutely ballistic through the entire population, and then all those people that have been jumping on and stopping a lot of this stuff going forward are going to be like, "Well, save us." Because we've gotten so far away from the point of where the last pandemic was. Like, I don't class the COVID pandemic as a pandemic. I think that was a load of bullshit with some of the things. But the last true pandemic, um, like the black, like
1920.
like if we go back to like the Black Plague and all the others and stuff like that, like because and even the one that causes lockjaw and all, because we've gotten so far away from the diseases that we've now overcome that did create horrific human suffering, we've gotten to the point where we're so blasé about everything that if something like that was to come back, yeah, we're screwed. We
All
we need something like that to come back and re-educate everyone and go, no,
all we
um,
need is the measles to go worldwide and have an outbreak, and then talking immune compromise wise, measles wipes out your immunity memory. So everything that you were immune to, either naturally or through vaccines, disappears. And so you're basically start all over again. And you even lose the immunity that you got um, prenatally. So yeah, and it's not the measles that will probably take you out unless you have like, the severe case of measles that cause brain swelling and the cascade of fatal events. But I'm more afraid of like if your immune system gets wiped out and you have no memory and your system has no memory, that means anything can take you out because your immune system's going to be like, well, what the hell are you? You know?
Well, think about it. You're an adult, right? Have you had chickenpox as a kid?
Uh, have I? I don't think so. Oh, maybe. Maybe I did.
All right, so like I had chickenpox as a kid. As you said, if measles wipes out that protection from all those previous um, infections, so if I was to get chickenpox again, that can transfer into
Shingles.
um, shingles, which would be 10 times worse. And yeah, and like even like things like polio and that, if that were to make it come back, that'd be absolutely devastating.
Oh my God.
We have successfully eradicated certain diseases. But yet there are people out there like whooping cough, for example, that was eradicated here in Australia, but yet people aren't vaccinating against it, so it's starting to come back. It's like, can
Talk
you people like you know?
talk about polio. When I was working in hospice, we had a polio case, right? He had gotten it as a child or whatever. Um, and I guess the disease was still active. And so, because we've never worked with a patient with polio, we were like, can we get it? Are we immune? Like, we, my supervisor freaked out so bad. And she's like, do you really trust getting a vaccine that you got like 50 years ago? And I'm like, uh, I, I don't know, but I'm willing to risk it. Obviously, the public's been fine, since then, and we don't have to, call public health or do anything. But like the mass panic in the office about potentially being exposed to like polio was just, it was crazy. But I agree with you. A lot of the diseases that were eradicated or at least controlled by herd immunity are kind of making a comeback. And who knows, maybe the Black Plague comes back because what that was that rodent driven?
Um, that was driven by the fleas that were on the rodents, which
Um,
was subsequently helped by people telling everyone to go around and kill all the cats. So therefore, the rats could take better hold. Therefore, more fleas would get around, and the plague went even more viral because of that. So it was stupid.
yeah. Or I think the new fear now is the waters are getting warmer and it's more cozy conditions for the amoebas, the
Mm.
life
And,
threat
and
amoebas because the water is warmer, so there's more of them. And now when people are going and swimming in warmer waters, they're at risk more for amoebas
my
eating their
my
brain.
my biggest issue is all that ground that's been frozen for millennia, like the Russian permafrost and all that. Um, and like the fact that they've actually like taken core samples and found creatures in there and successfully revived worms and all that kind of stuff. What else could they potentially accidentally revive that, I know they do it under sterile circumstances, but if something gets out of the sterile lab, kind of like it did with the whole Wuhan flu, um, who's to tell what sort of untold damage that could do to the population?
I think the Raffle Proser talked about radioactive dinosaurs, and that's kind of I see that's going to be society's downfall.
Nah. Um,
Or radioactive, is it radioactive or new? Yeah, I forget something. But that's how I see it. That we revive or some. Yeah, you're right. Some virus, some weird bacteria that we know nothing about, and someone comes home from Antarctica and it's on their shoes, and they're suddenly
hmm,
patient X
patient zero
or
is
patient.
what they call
Oh,
it. Yeah,
um.
like that, I would be worried about. So, and the fact that they've drilled down under the ice in Antarctica and found lakes full of life. It's like things can survive at that extreme temperature. What the hell chance have we got if something comes out that's been frozen and can survive, like the tardigrades, for example? If something has that ability, then we're screwed.
Yeah, I think I hate to say this, but as microscopic bacteria and viruses are and single-celled organisms, they like we ain't got anything on them. They are the superpowers and we're just I don't know. We think that we're bigger than them, but really, what is our defense system?
Well, they're saying now that there's certain places that have radioactivity, that there's plants and fungus are now starting to basically take over because it's thriving off the nuclear waste.
Oh yeah, I what is that? Chernobyl? Is it Chernobyl? Chernobyl?
Yeah,
They
and
have
then with Chernobyl.
special. What is it? Like the fish are now deformed. I know they're not cryptids, but um.
The fish are deformed. Jeremy Wade proved that.
Oh, he did. Oh, did he do a
Yeah,
thing?
he actually got permission to go in there and fish in the cooling ponds of the Chernobyl power plant.
Oh man, I should have. Is that still on Hulu?
Yeah, I think so. I think it's even on YouTube and that. It's Yeah, and I did read an article the other day. They're saying something about the wolves are now, like the wolves of Chernobyl and Pripyat are now evolving again because
Mm-hmm.
of the waste. They said the frogs evolved within just a few generations to go from green to black because of the exposed heat and everything.
Oh wow.
Mm.
Says while few people live near Chernobyl now, animals living in the vicinity of the accident allow us to study the effects of radiation and gauge recovery from the disaster. Most domestic animals have moved away from the accident, and those deformed farm animals that were born did not reproduce. After the first years following the disaster, scientists focused on studies of wild animals and pets that had been left behind to learn about Chernobyl's impact. Although the Chernobyl accident can't be compared to effects from a nuclear bomb because the isotopes released by the reactor differ from those produced by a nuclear weapon, both accidents and bombs caused mutations and cancer. It's crucial to study the effects of the disaster to help people understand the serious and long lasting consequences of nuclear releases. Moreover, understanding the effects of Chernobyl may help humanity react to other nuclear power plant accidents. And then it talks about the relationship between radiation and that. Okay. Examples of domestic genetic deformities. Ranchers noticed an increase in genetic abnormalities in farm animals immediately following the Chernobyl accident. In 1889 and 1990, the number of deformities spiked again, possibly as a result of radiation released from the, I'm going to butcher this, sarcophagus intended to isolate the nuclear core. In 1990, around 400 deformed animals were born. Most deformities were so severe the animals only lived a few hours. Examples of defects as a result of the Chernobyl disaster included facial malformations, extra appendages, abnormal coloring, and reduced size. Domestic animal mutations are most common in cattle and pigs. Also, cows exposed to fallout and fed radioactive feed produced radioactive milk. Let's see. It affected everything. Poor puppies. Uh, yeah, that's what it's more scientific than paranormal. But yeah, it's just like horses, wolves, badgers, swans, moose, elk, turtle, deer, foxes, beavers, boars, bison, mink, hares, otters, lynx, eagles, rodents, storks, bats, and owls. That's crazy.
Yep, and now apparently the dome is also failing because of a bloody drone strike.
I have a lot of
Like,
hope for humanity.
like,
Oh.
like, here's the thing. Like, I know there's a lot they can't do because of, the elephant's foot, which has apparently surprisingly shrunk in size since the accident. It's only like half or a quarter of what it was. But I'm wondering why, like, Japan has done so much to fix their areas from the bombardment from which they copped. Why can't we use whatever they use, but use like modern technology to help amplify that to clean up Chernobyl?
I don't know. That's like way above my pay grade.
Yeah, like I'm still wondering, is the Fukushima, I think it is the one that's on the water or near the water, is that still leaking nuclear waste into the sea?
Oh, I don't even know.
Because I do remember them saying that that's stretched a hell of a long way out into the water too. And like, so I reckon whoever's responsible for that should be made to clean it up. Like I know it was a earthquake that caused it, but surely the people behind the power plant should be you know. So apparently the parts of Fukushima are still radioactive, but yeah. However, massive decontaminations have reduced the radiation to safe levels. So yeah, if they can do that, like it's now what 2026, and that was in 2011, and if we can return areas to safe thing, you think they'd be able to do that worldwide?
Yeah. I don't know. I think that Chernobyl is just going to create our own cryptids, and we'll never know the we'll never know the true effects because we'll probably you know, self-destruct and try again. Like Kenny says.
Now, but it also makes me wonder if there's a place in Oslo, I think it is, that's got natural um, thermonuclear reaction going on.
Mm-hmm.
It's in a cave there. I would love to know what created that because, as I said, it's been going for thousands upon thousands of years. But yeah, it's not affecting the outside countryside. So I'd love to know what caused that, and how. Why aren't we studying that to create better and safer nuclear things for us?
Good question. Do you want to continue cryptid stories tomorrow?
Yeah, we can do that. It's a whole heap more. Like it'd be interesting to get into the beast of like Bodman and Exmoor and all that kind of stuff. And I think there's even a couple of alien stories that are attached to um, uh, the Moors, like the hairy hands. Um, we could also do a tangent with the who was it? Not the Wests. Um, there's another set of killers that use the moors as dumping grounds for bodies.
Oh, I'm not familiar.
Really? Wow.
Uh-uh.
Okay, that'll be an interesting one to tell you then. While you listen to it, it's heartbreaking for the kids because a lot of them still haven't been found yet, and yeah,
Oh. Yeah, why don't we do tomorrow around 10 o'clock, so maybe an hour later. Because
yep,
tomorrow's Sunday and I have to get the kiddos settled in. Um, yeah, I'll send you a link tomorrow and then we'll do another cryptids. Yeah. All right.
yeah, that's fine. We can definitely do that. I will be glad to jump in and yeah.
I mean, if you want, I'm not trying to force you. Sorry.
No, as long as I get my house cleaning done before then, because I've got an inspection on Monday. So yeah, I'll do my house cleaning early.
Okay. Sounds good. It'll be motivation. But I
Oh
do it
yeah, definitely.
myself. I love your knowledge.
Yeah, as I said to Kinney, it's just a different way of living than what she's done. She's got her own knowledge. I've got my knowledge, and this is where I've spent a lot of my time, reading and absorbing the knowledge of the cryptids and that. Because it's always been fascinating. And as I pointed out when I was talking to you and Kinney about growing up, living with my grandmother and having that time where I was just on my own recovering from operations. Yeah, you get to read a lot.
Yeah, no, yeah. Let me know what your resources are because I would love to learn, you know, a lot more too. I was actually wanting to learn more about uh, this is going to sound insane, but we're on this paranormal track anyways. So, the psychic that I saw that like accurately, you know, predicted my life probably up to this point and probably the rest of it. Um, because she did tell me how long I was going to live, which now I have a complex over because I wished I didn't even know that. Um,
No one wants to know when they die because it it will put limits on things that you will do.
well, like did you hear what Kenny said? Like maybe I self prophet or self manifested after I talked to this person because some of the events would have never have happened if I didn't believe her. You know what I mean? Um, but
Hmm.
the only way to make her story true or her predictions true is if I did believe her. But then we also ran into the can't fight fate thing with the whole car and deer and whatever. But um have you heard of the concept of like star children? Child?
Yes, I mentioned that before. That's the genetic line that they don't know where they come from.
So she mentioned that. And then she
Hmm.
mentioned that my children are part of that too because of me. And then
Yeah,
I like,
it's a certain genetic line that runs through. If I remember correctly, the Aboriginal and certain older cultures have that line in them that they don't know where it came from yet.
really? You mentioned
Yeah.
Aborigine,
Hmm.
right? I have Native heritage. I don't know if I can call it Native American or Native Hispanic because of the border and it moving in our history. But apparently I'm like Native Hispanic or Texan, depending on what year we're in. Um, but
I would just, well, technically the land is still the Americas. So whether it's north or south, you're still technically a native, or it's still technically Native American. So who gives a shit over a small border squabble?
well, in some cultures, it's like really important. um,
Yeah, I know, but the thing is, the Native Americans had different lines to what the current administration does. So whatever their lines say would be the line that I'd go by, realistically.
yeah, I would think so. I mean, yeah, I haven't really researched it much, but yeah, I would think that too. But I wanted to like dive into that a little bit more deeper just because where would you go to research any of that? Like you just Google it, Google a
Um,
star child thing or the because
I
there's
don't know. I'll look in. I'll try and look into that from my end. But I know there are a lot of sources out there. So um, I don't know if that cryptid site that I was on. I did send you the link for that, by the way. Um, yeah. So who knows?
okay. Yeah, because I
Um,
went down that rabbit hole too. Because I'm kind of intrigued with that theory and I just want to be like, well, where did it come from and why? And I have questions. And how do you know?
yeah, so I've just done like a quick thing on Star Child meaning, and it says like indigo children were the first wave, and now apparently they're now being called rainbow children, which is kind of weird. Like I've known about the indigo children for freaking forever, but yeah,
Yeah, when we go, we should do a show on like the Indigo Star Child thing because I have an interesting story for that one too. Um,
hmm.
yeah, that my dad told me when I was growing up. All right, so I gotta get off and go check on the oldest
Yep,
because I'm in from somewhere. I have no idea where, but I'll catch you tomorrow. Thanks, chat, for hanging out with us. Just Khaleesi. Who else was on? Girly,
Jesse and Max.
Jesse and Max, Wrathful Proser, whoever fell asleep to this. Thank you. Michelle. We appreciate it. Thanks,
Yep,
guys. Good night. Sweet
night.
dreams.